I've avoided talking about this for years. People ask me about work, about plans, about the future, and those questions are easy to answer. But there's one question I've avoided, one topic I've never felt ready to discuss publicly until now. What does love actually mean to me? Leave a comment saying, love, if you want to hear what took me 53 years to understand about the most important thing in life. For most of my life, I thought I knew what love was. I thought it was a feeling, that rush of excitement when you meet someone, that intense attraction, that desire to spend time with another person. I thought love was something that happened to you, like catching a cold or winning the lottery. I was completely wrong. It took me 3 failed marriages, strained relationships with my children, and years of feeling successful in every area except the one that actually matters to understand what love really is. Love isn't a feeling. Feelings come and go. They're unreliable, changeable, dependent on circumstances and moods and 1,000 factors beyond your control. Love is a choice, a daily choice, a choice you make especially when the feelings aren't there. Let me tell you how I learned this. 5 years ago, I was at my lowest point emotionally, professionally successful, personally isolated. I had everything the world says you're supposed to want, and I felt empty in a way that scared me. I called my mother one night, not because I needed advice, but because I needed to talk to someone who knew me before I became this public figure everyone has opinions about. We talked for 2 hours about nothing important. Family memories, small things from my childhood, stories I'd heard 100 times. And as we talked, something shifted in me. My mother is in her 70s now. She's not perfect. She made mistakes raising us, made choices I didn't always understand or agree with, but she showed up every day of my childhood, every day of my adult life. She showed up. Not perfectly, but consistently. That night I finally understood what she'd been demonstrating my entire life. Love is showing up. It's that simple and that difficult. After that call, I started paying attention to the people in my life who I considered loving. Not people who said they loved me, but people whose actions demonstrated it. I noticed patterns. The people who genuinely loved me weren't the ones who only appeared when things were good. They were the ones who showed up when things were hard, who called when I was difficult, who stayed when it would have been easier to leave. One of my children, I won't say which one, went through a period where they wanted nothing to do with me. Understandable given how much I'd been absent during their growing up years, prioritizing work over presence. Every week for 18 months, I sent a message, just a simple text, thinking about you. I'm here when you're ready, no pressure, no guilt, no demands for response, just consistent presence, even in absence. Most weeks, no response. Some weeks, a one-word reply. It hurt. I wanted to give up to protect my ego, to say fine if they do and want a relationship that eased their choice. But love isn't about protecting your ego. Love is showing up anyway. After 18 months, I got a longer message. Can we talk? We talked awkwardly at first, then more honestly than we ever had before. Our relationship isn't perfect now, but it exists, and it exists because I finally learned that love means showing up even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not reciprocated immediately, even when your ego is bruised. That's the first thing I've learned about love. It's not a feeling, it's a commitment to show up. The second thing I learned is harder to admit. For years, I confused love with need. I thought I loved people when really I needed them, needed their approval, needed their admiration, needed them to make me feel good about myself. That's not love. That's using people to fill a hole inside yourself. Real love doesn't need anything from the other person. It gives freely without keeping score, without expecting return on investment. I had to face this with brutal honesty. How many relationships had I entered because I needed something from the other person? How often had I called it love when it was really just need disguised in romantic language? A friend of mine, someone I've known for 20 years, told me something that changed my perspective completely. He said, Elon, you only seem interested in people when they're useful to you. The moment someone can't give you something you need, you disappear. That was hard to hear. My first instinct was to defend myself, to explain all the valid reasons I'd been busy or unavailable, but the truth behind his words was undeniable. I thought about my relationships, romantic, familial, friendships. How many had I neglected when those people couldn't offer me something I needed? How often had my presence been conditional on what I was getting in return? Love doesn't work that way. Love is unconditional presence. Even when the other person has nothing to give you, even when the relationship doesn't serve your immediate needs. I started practicing this intentionally, reaching out to people not because I needed something but just to connect, showing up for others when there was nothing in it for me, being present for people going through difficult times when they had nothing to give back. It felt strange at first, unnatural, like I was doing something without purpose. But gradually I understood this is what love actually is. Not transaction but gift, not need but generosity. The third thing I learned about love is perhaps the most surprising. Love isn't about big gestures or grand declarations. It's about small, consistent acts of attention and care. I used to think love was proved through big things, expensive gifts, dramatic gestures, life-changing sacrifices. I thought if I could just do enough big, impressive things, that would prove I loved someone. But I missed all the small moments, the daily conversations, the simple presence, the unglamorous work of actually paying attention to another person's life. One of my children once told me, "Dad, I don't need you to do big things. I just need you to remember what I told you yesterday about what is happening in my life." That hit me hard. I had been so focused on being impressive, on making up for my absence with grand gestures that I wasn't doing the basic work of love, paying attention, remembering, showing that what matters to them matters to me. I started keeping notes after conversations with the people I care about, not in a weird, calculated way, but just to help me remember what they mentioned they were worried about, what they were excited about, what small thing was happening in their life. Then I'd follow up simple messages. How did that meeting go? Did you finish that project? Hope you're feeling better today. The responses surprised me. People weren't impressed by these small gestures, but they felt seen. They felt like I was actually present in their lives, not just performing occasional appearances. That's when I understood love is attention, consistent, genuine attention to another person's reality. The fourth thing I learned is the hardest one I'm still working on. Love requires vulnerability, real vulnerability, not the performed kind that looks impressive but keeps people at a safe distance. I've built my entire adult life around not being vulnerable, being strong, capable, in control, never showing weakness, never admitting uncertainty, never letting people see behind the competent exterior. But that kind of strength is actually a wall. It keeps people out. It prevents the kind of intimacy that real love requires. A woman I dated briefly told me, "I feel like I'm worth a performance, not a person. You never let me see you struggle or doubt or fail. That doesn't make me admire you more. It makes me feel lonely with you." She was right. I was so busy maintaining an image of strength that I wasn't allowing actual connection. Real love requires letting people see you, really see you, not just the successful parts or the impressive parts, but the uncertain parts, the struggling parts, the parts that aren't figured out. This terrifies me. It still terrifies me. Every instinct screams to protect myself, to maintain control, to only show the parts of myself I can be proud of. But I'm learning slowly, painfully, that love is impossible without risk. And the risk of being seen, really seen, is the price of genuine connection. I started small with close friends, with my children, with people I trusted, admitting when I was uncertain, sharing when I was struggling, letting them see me have emotions I couldn't control or problems I couldn't immediately solve. The world didn't end. People didn't lose respect for me. In fact, the opposite happened. They felt closer to me. They felt like they finally knew me, not just the public figure, but the actual person. That's what I'm still learning about love. It requires showing up as you actually are, not as you wish you were or as you think you should be. Here's what all of this has taught me about what love actually means. Love is not a feeling, though feelings are often involved. Love is a choice to show up consistently for another person. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the feelings aren't there. Love is not need, though we often confuse the two. Love is giving without requiring return, being present without expecting reciprocation, caring about someone's well-being independent of what they can do for you. Love is not grand gestures, though those can be part of it. Love is small, consistent attention, remembering what matters to someone, following up on the details of their life, being present in ordinary moments. Love is not strength and control. Love is vulnerability. It's letting yourself be seen, really seen with all your imperfections and uncertainties. It's risking rejection by showing up as you actually are. I'm 53 years old and I'm just now beginning to understand what love actually is. That might seem sad. All those wasted years, all those failed relationships, all those misconnections, but I don't see it that way anymore. I see it as learning, painful learning, expensive learning, but learning nonetheless. For those of you watching this who are my age or older, you might relate to this journey. You might have spent years confusing love with need, or thinking love was just a feeling, or believing grand gestures proved love. Or maybe you figured this out decades ago and you're watching this thinking, finally, he gets it. Either way, here's what I want to share with you. It's never too late to learn what love actually means. Never too late to start showing up differently for the people you care about. Never too late to choose vulnerability over performance, consistency over grand gestures, giving over needing. The people in your life, your children, your spouse, your friends, your family, they don't need perfect love. They need honest love. They need you to show up, pay attention, be vulnerable, and keep trying even when you mess up. Because here's the secret about love that took me too long to learn. Nobody loves perfectly. Everyone fails at it regularly. The question isn't whether you'll fail at loving well. You will. The question is whether you'll keep showing up anyway. My mother, who taught me about showing up, isn't perfect. She made mistakes, but she kept showing up, and that mattered more than any mistake she made. My children, who I failed in so many ways, are teaching me that it's never too late to start showing up better. They're not asking for perfection. They're asking for consistency, attention, vulnerability. The people in your life are probably the same. They don't need you to suddenly become perfect at loving well. They need you to keep trying, to keep showing up, to keep being honest about where you're failing and committed to doing better. That's what love means to me now. Not perfection, but persistence. Not flawless demonstration, but honest effort. Not avoiding failure, but showing up anyway. If you're struggling in relationships, romantic, familial friendships, maybe the problem isn't that you're not good enough at love. Maybe the problem is that you're operating with the wrong definition of what love actually is. Love isn't a feeling you wait to have. It's a choice you make every day. Love isn't needing someone. It's giving freely to them. Love isn't grand gestures. It's small, consistent attention. Love isn't presenting your best self. It's showing your real self. Start there. Start with those principles. See what changes in your relationships when you stop trying to feel love or impress with love and start simply choosing to show up with love. I wish I'd learned this 30 years ago, but I'm learning it now, and that's better than never learning it at all. Let me tell you about the moment when all of this crystallized for me. The moment I couldn't pretend anymore. It was a Tuesday afternoon, nothing special about it. I was in a meeting, another meeting about timelines and engineering challenges and resource allocation. The kind of meeting I've sat through thousands of times. My phone buzzed. A text from my youngest child. Never mind, I figured it out myself. I stared at that message for longer than I should have during a meeting. For words that contained an entire story I hadn't been present for. I scrolled up through our message history. 2 days earlier they'd sent, "Dad, can I ask you something about what you said about following your passion versus being practical? I'm really confused about this college decision." I had read it, I remembered reading it, I had even thought, I need to respond to this properly, not just a quick text. And then I'd gotten pulled into something urgent. There's always something urgent, and I never responded. So they figured it out themselves, like they'd been doing for years, like all my children had been doing for years. I excused myself from the meeting, told them I had an emergency, and in a way I did, just not the kind they were imagining. I called my child. They didn't answer. I called again, still no answer. I sent a text. "I'm so sorry. I saw your message and meant to respond and didn't. Can we talk now? I want to hear about what you're thinking about college." The response came 10 minutes later. "It's fine. I already decided. You're busy. I get it. But it wasn't fine, and I knew it wasn't fine." That phrase, "I get it," contained years of accumulated disappointment, years of me being too busy, years of them learning not to need me because I wasn't reliably there. I sat in my car in the parking garage for an hour, just sat there. Here's what I realized. I had been telling myself a story about my life that wasn't true. The story went like this. I'm building important things that will change the world. My work matters. When I'm successful enough, when I've achieved enough, when things are more stable, then I'll have time for the personal stuff. My family understands that what I'm doing is bigger than daily conversations. But sitting in that parking garage looking at that message, I figured it out myself. I saw the truth beneath the story. My children weren't figuring things out themselves because they were independent and capable. They were figuring things out themselves because they'd learned I wouldn't be there. Not consistently, not reliably, not when it really mattered. I drove to their school, waited in the parking lot until classes ended. When they came out and saw me, the look on their face wasn't happiness. It was surprise mixed with something like weariness. "What are you doing here?" they asked. "I came to hear about your college decision," I said. They looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Right now, don't you have work?" "This is more important," I said. We sat in the car. They told me about the decision they were struggling with, a prestigious university far away versus a good school close to home. About wanting to prove themselves versus being scared of being alone, about not knowing how to weigh practical considerations against what they actually wanted. I listened, really listened, not thinking about my next meeting or my next project or all the urgent things waiting for me, just listening, and then I told them something I'd never told them before. I told them about when I was their age facing a similar decision. How I chose based on what I thought I was supposed to do rather than what I actually wanted. How that choice set me on a path that led to success by every external measure but left me feeling empty in ways I didn't even recognize for decades. I told them I didn't know the right answer for them, that nobody did, that they'd have to figure it out themselves. But figuring it out yourself doesn't mean doing it alone. It means making your own choice, but with support and conversation and people who actually care about what you decide. I should have responded 2 days ago, I said. I should have made this conversation the priority it deserved to be. I'm sorry I didn't. They were quiet for a long moment. Then they said, "You're here now." 3 words. You're here now, not at ease too late or the damage is done or any of the things I deserve to hear. Just you're here now. That's when I understood something profound about love that I'd never grasped before. Love isn't about being perfect. It's not even about being consistent, though that matters. Love is about coming back, about showing up even after you've failed, about trying again even after you've let someone down. Every relationship will have moments where you don't show up, where you prioritize the wrong thing, where you let someone down. That's inevitable. We're human, we're flawed, we're limited. The question isn't whether you'll fail at showing up. The question is, what do you do after you fail? Do you avoid it because you're ashamed? Do you make excuses? Do you tell yourself a story about why your absence was justified? Do you wait for the perfect moment to make up for it? Or do you just show up again imperfectly, inadequately, but genuinely? We talked for an hour in that parking lot about college, about fear, about trying to figure out who you want to be when you are not even sure who you are yet. Important conversation, the kind of conversation I'd missed 100 times before because I was too busy. At the end, my child said, "Thanks, Dad, this actually helped." I started crying right there in the school parking lot in front of my teenage child. Not performative crying, not controlled emotion, just tears. I couldn't stop. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I'm so sorry for all the times I wasn't there, for all the conversations we didn't have because I prioritized something else, for teaching you that you had to figure everything out yourself." My child looked uncomfortable, not with the apology, but with my tears. They'd never seen me cry before, ever in their entire life. "It's okay, Dad," they said awkwardly. "It's not okay," I said. "But I'm going to try to do better. Not perfectly. I'll still mess up, but I'm going to try." And the relationship with that child has changed. Not overnight, not dramatically, but gradually. They text me more now. Not because I'm suddenly the perfect father, but because they've learned I'll respond. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Reliably. That's what I wish I'd understood 30 years ago. Love isn't about never failing. It's about what you do after you fail. It is about crying when you realize the cost of your absence instead of maintaining the performance of strength. It's about trying again and again and again, even when you keep getting it wrong. If you're listening this and thinking about relationships where you failed, where you've been absent, where you've prioritized the wrong things, it's not too late. Show up even late, even imperfectly. Even when you're ashamed of how long you've been gone, the people who love you aren't waiting for perfect. They're waiting for honest. They're waiting for you to care enough to keep trying. You're here now. That's what matters. Not that you were always here, not that you never failed, just that you're here now and you're willing to keep showing up. That's love. Messy, imperfect, late arriving, but real love. Share this with someone who might be struggling to understand why their relationships feel empty despite their best efforts. What does love mean to you? Has your understanding of it changed as you've gotten older?